Hello everyone, it's CreativeNameToStandOut again with another battle report, and this time I'm bringing you a game between my Khorne Bloodbound, the Blood Slaves, and an opponent's Flesh Eater Courts. We're going to be playing a scenario from the General's Handbook called Places of Power, and it was a lot of fun. So, in the middle of the board, there'll be 3 pieces of terrain, as you can see here. They'll be placed like so, and you can control the pieces of terrain by having a character get within 3 inches of it. At the end of every turn of your turn, every player turn, if you have that character controlling the terrain piece, you gain 1 point. On the next turn, if you controlled it the turn before and now, you gain 2 points, and 3 points, and 4 points, and 5 points until the game is over. If for whatever reason you don't control it and then you go back to it, you start the count over again. So if you controlled it for the first turn, you get 1 point, the second turn, the second point, and then for whatever reason, if you move away from it and then go back, you start back at 1 point. So that's how you control it, and that's how you're going to win the game. Whoever has the most points at the end will win. So let's go ahead and look at deployment. My opponent sets up first, and he starts off by putting 20 Crypt Ghouls in the center of the board. I kind of center right of the middle objective put down 16 Blood Reavers. This is the first of my Dark Feast formation. On the left flank, he starts out his formation with 3 Horrors from the Attendants at Court. And then I put more central, but maybe center left of the middle objective, my 16 other Blood Reavers from the Dark Feast formation. He puts down 20 more Crypt Ghouls, and then I start setting up 10 Blood Warriors right behind my mass meat wall of Blood Reavers. And I like to do this because I like the Blood Reavers just to recklessly move forward, and then, turn 2, if I get the initiative off, then I got tons of shirtless guys with tons of attack going into the enemy. And if I don't win the initiative, my opponent can kill all the shirtless guys, kind of grind them down, but my more powerful units can pick and choose where they want to go in ensuing turns. So it's just kind of like a tactic, I guess, I use, just running this wall of flesh across the field with the more damaging, more severe, more dangerous units right behind. Not looking to just, because if I ran them out front, then my opponent could swing in his best units into, say, my Blood Warriors, create some mismatches that I don't want to see, and pretty much defang my entire army, because the Blood Reavers are not going to, they're going to attrition things down, but they're not going to wipe things out. Following that, he puts up 3 more Crypt Horrors. Now, these aren't part of the Attendants at Court formation. They're just 3 Horrors he brought along. And then in the center, I put down Ushkar Mir. But great place to have him since he has that command ability that says everything within 6 inches gets +1 attack. Next, we have yet another group of Crypt Horrors. This is the second part of the Attendants of Court formation on my far left. And then I, in response, put in the dead center in the woods, Blood Secretor Skull. He sets up the last part of that formation, the Haunter Courtier, right behind the 2. So I guess he's fully committed to try to take the 3rd objective with these guys. And I respond by putting down Bloodstoker Donovan Vole, or how I like to call him most of the time, Fatty McFatfat. He then sets up his Crypt Cast behind all those ghouls, and I respond by putting down my Skull Grinder, Kordos. Next, he puts his, what is this called, a Vargulf behind that terrain piece. On my far left, matching that entire formation, I put down 16 of the Blood Reavers with the Meat Ripper axes. Those have the -1 rend. And then he puts down another Haunter Courtier, but he's on the far right with the other unit of Horrors and are not part of the formation. So to round everything off, you can see that I put my Skull Reapers behind the Meat Ripper axes. He's going to put down his General in the center. You're going to see that in the picture just in a few. And then finally, I place down my giant Wrath of Khorne Bloodthirster. So I was just waiting to see where I can place him. I don't think I want to match up the Bloodthirster against the Dragon Vampire King. I don't know how that's going to turn out. I tend to roll really badly when it comes down to hero-on-hero battles, so I'm just going to go ahead and avoid that. And instead, I'm just going to weight everything on the right side to taking that terrain piece. Now, he has the jump on me when it comes to speed. A lot of his stuff is just very, very fast, and especially his characters, actually. So he's going to be able to capture the other two pretty early compared to me. My guys are just 5-inch movers most of the time. I think Fatty, ironically, is a 6-inch mover, but that's nowhere near fast enough to capture something in turn 1. So I'm going to bring that Bloodthirster over and try to capture at least one of the objectives, and then hopefully be able to push him off the other two. So that's the game plan here. Again, I have the meat wall here to absorb any charges that he might get the initiative on. Otherwise, it's always good to get the charge off with all the Blood Reavers, because they're going to have like up 10 million attacks. So with that, we're going to roll up to see who gets the first turn, and my opponent gets it. Now for me, the most interesting part of the board in the first turn is whether or not he's going to be able to get to the far left terrain piece with his Ghoul Haunter Courtier. These guys move pretty fast. I think it's like a 6 or 7-inch move, and then of course they can run. So there is a good chance he could capture that on the first turn, but lucky for me, he doesn't get there. But as predicted, the far right is easily captured by the Vorgulf Courtier, and of course the center was not even in question because he has the Ghoul King on the Zombie Dragon. So first turn's just about capturing terrain pieces. He gets 2 of the 3. That gives me options on the left flank, and I need to start figuring out how I intend to push him off the center or right side. So in my turn, it's going to be equally as fast, equally as direct. As you can see on the left flank, I do easily capture the terrain piece with my Bloodthirster, and I'm just moving super aggressive across the board. Like I said, I like this meat wall as it is. It either buffers my more important units by taking all the charges, or I get the next turn and I just slam into him where I want with a ton of attacks. So that's the end of my first turn, and we'll move on to the second. Alright, so now as you've probably already noticed, my army's situated center and left. And that means that he's going to have some units on the right that aren't really contributing anything to the battle now that he's locked down that rightmost objective with his Vargulf Courtier. So in this turn, he's going to take these units and just run them forward to try to get them more central to the battle. And that's what you can kind of see here. Now we're going to move into the charge phase, and here we're going to see a scenario that I think we're going to pause and talk about it for a second because I think it illustrates an important point. So first off, he's going to charge with the Crypt Ghouls. They're going to charge into both of the Reaver units. I think this is a good idea because it's 20 of the Ghouls versus 32 of the Reavers, and while I do think the Reavers will win in the long run, since he's going to have the initiative in this combat, he can really whittle me down so that in the later parts of the game, the Reavers don't really serve a purpose. They're just going to be too weak to do anything. Now on the left side, this is the important part, he's going to charge with both units of Horrors, but only one unit's actually going to make it, and this is the scenario I'm talking about. Now, of course, this isn't my opponent's fault. He tried to make this charge, it just didn't work out, but it does illustrate the importance, I think, of charging in odd increments. Now, quickly, just to get the battle report part done, he's going to smoke the Rippers. I'm going to then attack with my Reavers into his Ghouls, really cause them some pain, not take too many casualties back, and then the rest of my Rippers will flee after doing a minor amount of wounds. So, now, going back to why it's important to charge in odd increments, is I think it's really easy to see in this scenario. Since he only charged with these two, he had to make a decision. Is he going to take the chance of the Rippers killing off all his Horrors, or is he going to take the option of all the Ghouls dying to the other Reavers? And of course, he decides he wants to save the harder hitting unit and just sacrifice the throwaway unit, really. The Ghouls are kind of a throwaway unit in the end. But say he did charge with that other unit of Horrors, what ends up happening is the Rippers are now split. Their total amount of attacks are split between two units. There's less likelihood that I'm going to be able to wipe them out unless I just roll like phenomenally. And so he can then choose to first attack with the Ghouls. The Ghouls can do their thing, really weakening my two units of Reavers. and then I will, of course, I'm going to choose my Rippers next since they haven't been attacked. They're going to do their damage, but they're not going to probably wipe out either of the horror units, and then he can strike with both of the horror units and wipe out those Rippers like he did with just one of them. So it just shows to you when you have an odd increment of units attacking, it gives you a lot of control of the flow of combat, whereas when you charge with an even amount of units, or just when you're in combat with an even amount of units, you lose control of the flow of battle. And so it's just something to keep in mind as you're playing. And as we go into my turn 2, we can kind of see what I'm talking about from the other side. So I'm going to hold back the Blood Warriors because I don't want to get in combat this turn, because that would put me with 4 units in combat. I have the Blood Reavers who are already in combat with the Ghouls. I'm planning to charge these Skull Reapers into the horrors that just finish off the Rippers, and then I want to use my other unit of Reavers to engage that gas that's in the backfield. So I want my Reavers, and my Skull Reapers to be in combat, so I don't need to have the Blood Warriors attack just yet. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to charge all those combats like I said, and then I'm going to select the Skull Reapers first, and they're going to wipe out those horrors. He's going to have his attacks back against my Reavers, not going to do too much damage, and then I'm going to pretty much finish everything off in the center. Of course, I made my own mistake in this turn. In order to charge those horrors, I got a little too close to the other unit of horrors, and they got to get into combat and do some damage. Now, it could have been much worse had I been too much closer. In this case, he just barely got into combat, but a mistake still. So there we go. We're going to go into turn 3 next. I loved that my opponent did this just for the coolest factor, but it wasn't really serving him any good, unfortunately. He was up to this point, he was trying to shoot things with his breath weapon. It just wasn't really doing too much damage at all, and so he decided this turn he's just going to screw it. He controls the thing. Let's just get into the down and dirty and kill some stuff, which would be pretty easy for him because all his guys are just wearing shirts, and some of them not even. Otherwise, he, on the other side of the field, I believe tries to charge with the Haunter Courtier, but again fails. That's going to be a theme on the left side, actually. You're going to see a lot of failed charges over there. And then we just go ahead and go into combat. So, right up front, he decides to attack with the Ghouls first, and they do, of course, a ton of damage. I attack with my Reavers over against the Dragon, and I knock the thing down to 9 wounds, which I think is a pretty good thing for these guys. Otherwise, he rips them apart, of course, and there's very little of them left. Now, I'm not taking any battle shock tests just because I have so much stuff in the center that keeps me from doing so. I have the banner now planted, which gives each Reaver now 5 attacks apiece, and I also have Fatty McFat, Don McBull, however you want to call him. As long as he's within 12 units of the Dark Feast formation, none of them are taking any of those battle shock tests. So really going well on the attrition front. We're still waiting for his right side to get into combat. He did not charge this turn because, again, he was looking for odd amount of combats, and again, he failed on the left side. How he could he have known? He's just trying to plan accordingly. He's playing very well tactically. It's just the dice rolls aren't working out for him. So with momentum on my side, I decided to capitalize on this turn as much as I could, at least. I charged the Bloodthirster into combat. Now, you might be asking, why is he just now getting to combat? Well, it's not for a lack of trying. I have been trying to charge, but like I said, the left side is all about failed charges, and even in this picture, Kordos, the Skull Grinder, has also failed to charge. But we have here the Bloodthirster charging, so that's 1. We have the guy in combat from the Skull Reapers, so that's 2. On the other side, we have the Reavers still fighting the dragon, so that's 3. So I decide to charge in my unpainted, and it's very shameful, but unpainted Exalted Deathbringer. So that makes number 4. I think I can do something with him in this combat. And then to make it odd, I declare a charge with the Blood Warriors as number 5. So I waste no time selecting the Exalted Deathbringer, who I think's up to 7 attacks because of all the synergies that are around him. And he does very, very well, putting the Vampire Lord down to just 3 wounds, if not less, if I remember correctly. He then chooses to go with the Ghouls, and they're just not able to do much against the Bloodthirster or finish off that last Skull Reaper. I select the Blood Warriors next, who kill a lot of Ghouls, but don't do too much to the horrors that are also in that combat. He then chooses the Haunter Courtier to move up and try to finish off that Skull Reaper. Again, just is not able to do it because I am just doing very well with armor saves. And that brings us to this next combat, where I have even more luck with my armor saves, where the horrors cannot kill very many, if any, of my Blood Warriors. Going back to the other side, the Bloodthirster cleans up the rest of the ghouls, leaving only the Haunter Courtier, and the very wounded Vampire Lord is not able to do much against anybody. I think he targeted my hero the most and just wasn't able to do anything. So with that, we roll off to the next turn, and lucky me, I get it finally, and at the most important time. So here we go. Into my next turn, I'm looking at the board. I realize I'm winning all the battles, but I am slowly losing the war pretty badly, as you can see in the score down below. I think it's 12-6. So I need to start doing things quickly to start gaining some more points. So the first thing I need to do is kill off the zombie dragon. So when we go into combat, that's the first thing I do. I decide to attack with that Exalted Deathbringer, and I'm able to do the last 3 wounds. On the right side of the board, I have the Slaughter Priest Orto going to combat. Now, at this point, I have high hopes of winning this, but I think in the long run, I learned an important lesson. If I don't finish off units of Flesh Eater Courts, they're really going to come back and kick my butt. On the left side of the board, he again is unable to kill off that last Skull Reaper, and as a result, everybody gangs up on him and kills off that Courtier. Flesh Eater Court turn 4 just reaffirms my previous statement. If you don't finish them off, they're going to come back stronger than ever, and I'm going to lose this in the long run. Turn 5, the Slaughter Priest gets surrounded by ghouls. He's taking some wounds, but I have a plan. So at this point, I am going to lose the game. The only way I can win is if I can get that Vargulf to get off the objective. And guess what? I have the tools to do so. I pray to the Lord Khorne.
Blood for the Blood God, skulls for the Skull Throne.
Yeah, so I pretty much pulled him off. I boiled the guy's blood, made him really angry at me, and he rolled a 5 for his run, which pulled him just out of the 3-inch range to make him lose control. So that restarted his whole countdown for the points, and that means I won by just 1. However, as I was putting together this video, I was reading through the scenario like I usually do as I get ready to do a video, and it turns out that in order to score points, all you had to do was own it the turn before. So even though he moved away from the objective, he lost control of it, since technically he had control of it the first time around, and he moved back and owned it again, he should have won. But at the time, we just kind of thought that I had won because we pulled it off. So I will leave it to you, the viewer, to decide who gets this win. Will it be the Flesh Eater Courts because the rules are the rules, or do you like that I just managed to pull it off and win it there? So it's up to you. Otherwise, it's pretty much just a draw if you want it to be that way also. It was a lot of fun to play this game. I really enjoyed this scenario. I think the Age of Sigmar benefits from having scenarios like this where you can score every turn. And I hope to find some more as we comb through the books and get ready to play. I'm also playing a kind of mini campaign with another friend here, so you're going to see some of those videos coming up shortly. It'll be my Khorne Bloodbound against the Jordan, and as of right now, I think we're going to do 3 games. We got 2 done right now, and we've got a 3rd one coming up later this week. So let's see how that goes. Overall, though, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please feel free to comment and like. Of course, I appreciate everybody's subscriptions, and I'll see you guys next time.